Welcome to the Big Four Accounting Firms podcast, brought to you by big4accountingfirms.com and the Big Four Accounting Firms YouTube channel. Before we get started, just wanted to remind everybody to support us if you have a chance or if you can. Even $1 helps. And we have a link in the description to a website called Buy Me a Coffee. It's just a way to donate to us and support us. Again, any amount is helpful so that we can keep putting out content. And there's also other ways for you to support us in the show notes to this podcast or on YouTube in the description. In today's podcast, we're going to be covering another user question. Somebody emailed me asking if the Big Four partners, number of partners is growing, and specifically in audit, and what is the rate of the partner growth? And it's a really good question because I think people start at the end, right? Everybody when they're at the beginning of their Big Four careers is looking towards the end of their career, trying to be a partner because you want to know how much money you're going to make today. But after you get an internship or a job, this person's already getting a job in audit, then you start thinking of down the road about your promotions, et cetera, and ultimately to partner. And I decided to look into it. I mean, obviously last year was a different year because of COVID-19, but there were some pretty interesting results. I'll put a link. I'll put a link in the show notes because I put it together a little page. The page is a little bit messy because I was just collecting some data. I did it real quick. I'm not going to invest a whole bunch of time into it, but I looked at PWC because PWC actually puts out their partner growth every year. Not their growth, but they put the number of partners every year. And the other firms, you have to piece it together. So I did PWC and I did Deloitte. And I guess we could go over Deloitte first because Deloitte is very interesting from my perspective. Because Deloitte, they don't put the by region, they just put global. So Deloitte in 2020 had 574 new partners. So that's new. And then in 2019, they had 426 new partners. And then in 2018, they had 457, which is pretty confusing because the whole time Deloitte's revenue has grown. But in 2019, they made less new partners in 2018. Now, why could this be? This could be because of consulting. Consulting is a changing business. And that's something you have to consider. And that's what we'll talk about when I look at PWCs. Is that the amount of partners that are made in consulting depend on the amount of new business won. And you have to think consulting is not the same as accounting because consulting, you can grow a business out of anything. Think of the new things coming to market, crypto, government work. So for Deloitte, their new partner numbers are going to vary widely by year. And that's because of consulting. Now, if we looked at audit and tax at Deloitte, I'm sure it would be pretty consistent, except for the years when there's tax law changes, then you have tax jump up, and that's something else I'm going to talk about. So if I look at PWC's number of new partners went down last year. They only made 232 new partners in 2020, 80 of which were in audit. 91 were advisory, 52 tax. And you look in 2019, and PwC made 249 new partners. And that number should have gone up in 2020, except for COVID-19, because PwC's revenues did not grow by much, so they pulled back on the amount of new partners. So those are new partners. Those aren't total partners. And when I'm talking about PwC, I'm talking about in the US, because that's what they disclose. And I could probably piece together more of the global picture, but PwC does it by country, so it'd still be a little bit harder. And then in 2019, PwC had 79 audit partners, 86 advisory new partners, and 78 tax. Now, the reason they might have made more tax partners in 2019 is because of tax reform. And so it was a little bit of lag for that. Like people consulting for tax reform, there were some new groups in PwC in tax. So it could be because of that. But tax went way down from 2019 to 2020, from 78 new partners to 52. But audit stayed about the same from 79 in 2019 to 80 in audit. But I went back a ways to 2017. And in 2017, PwC made 212 new partners in the US. 74 were audit. And in 2017, PwC had revenue of $37.7 billion and $16 billion was audit. And then in 2020, PwC had $17.6 billion of revenue for audit and $43 billion revenue total. It's about a 10% increase in revenue. And their number of partners, new partners made in the US over that time was about 10% as well. So as you can see, the number of new partners made tracks with the amount of revenue growth as well. Where advisory has grown a lot in PwC over the years. And advisory is not as big in revenue as audit is for PwC. PwC has a big audit practice. And because of that, they are conflicted out of a lot of advisory stuff. But still, they're making more advisory partners, 91, than they are audit partners of 80 in 2020. And this is because advisory is growing faster as PwC continues to grow their advisory practice. And it's growing faster than audit, and we all know that. And so that's why we see these differences in partners in over the years, is because consulting is growing faster and PwC is growing it faster, so they're making more partners there. But if you're an accountant, which a lot of people listen to this are, then don't worry about switching over to advisory as much, because there's going to be a lot of jobs in there you can't even get. So are the partners still growing? Yes, they're growing, and they're growing consistently with the revenues. So you don't have to worry about that. And the reason this person's asking that is because they want to be in the market that's moving. They want to make sure that their career is relevant. But what I'd say to this person, to new people in the Big Four accounting firms, is don't even worry about this part. As far as your career goes, you have to worry about the long haul. And one of the biggest things of the Big Four accounting firms is staying put. Because one of the biggest things of the Big Four accounting firms is being able to stay there towards the long term. You have to worry about making it the first few years and getting promoted. Once you get past that, then you need to start working on partnership. But the way you work on partnership is not looking at the growth areas. It doesn't matter which part of the firms you're in. You have to build your network. You have to build your expertise. And within your line of service, you have to look at which areas are growing the most, which clients are the biggest, but also can you grow on that client, not get stuck in the back. It's very difficult in the Big Four accounting firms to stay for the long haul. And I can't tell you how many people come in the door and they want to make partner, and then just 3 or 4 years down the road, there's nobody left in your class. So the partners are growing. The Big Four accounting firms are growing, the largest professional services firms in the world, and they're going to keep growing. Is partnership any difficult than it used to be? No. It's all about growth, because when I started, I knew a partner that took advantage of some law changes and became a partner in a few short years. And I mean, he was a partner for forever, but he had made partner quick. And then things slow down and it takes time. But if there's law changes like tax reform, or there's some new market that opens up, a new client in an industry opens up, a historical client that the firm has some huge growth, or there's some huge M&A activity, or there's a new industry like crypto or cybersecurity, things like that, then there's ways to make partners sooner. But there's also opportunities, because some people can get on big clients and take over jobs that people don't like. And you can make partner that way, because big clients can maintain a lot of partners. And so you have to think of ways that you can make partner by adding value. But by also, you have to figure out the way that you're going to stay at the Big Four accounting firms, because if you leave, you're not going to make partners. Most people think they're going to make partner and they just end up leaving in a couple of years because it's too hard on them. So I would say that that's the biggest thing, is staying there for a long haul, but also being able to grow. And the reason I mentioned your network and growing your network is because whether or not you choose to stay at the big four accounting firms, growing your network is key. If you stay at the big four accounting firm, that network is going to be your clients. And the more people you have in your network, the more clients you're going to have, the bigger book of revenue you're going to have. And it doesn't matter if you win it outright or it just kind of falls in your lap. But the more contacts you make in your network, the more likely it is that those people could be your clients, and that could be attributed to you, that revenue could be attributed to you, or you take it over. You could either grow your network. Another way to do it is be on a humongous client and stay on that humongous client, and that humongous client will be your main source of revenue, because you can make a partner off of one client. You might have to take more clients on later, but you can make partner off of one client if it's big enough. So that's another thing to consider. But the way to hedge against you leaving the big four is growing your network. And some people choose to be miserable and they give up on their network after they leave the big four accounting firms. But that's not the way to go, because if you leave the big four accounting firms and you stop growing your network and you don't like the place that you leave to, then you might not be able to get a job as easy. So you should continue working on your network. Don't worry so much about the big four accounting firms growing. Audit, I would say, is slowing down, but it's still a humongous part of what these firms do, especially PWC, as we know, they're their biggest auditing firm. But it's a huge part of what these big four accounting firms do. If you have a certain path in mind, like being an audit partner, then you're going to stay there anyway. But if not, then going in audit is a good way to build up your resume so you can leave. And we've seen people in the past week where they want to be a CFO of a large organization. So that's another opportunity. But overall, the partners are growing. Advisory is moving around, as it always does, depending on the economy, depending on the opportunities, because the economy went down last year and PWC still hired more advisory people. So it depends on the economy, the opportunities, but things are still growing. So just wanted to keep people up to date on that, because it's a good question. But that's the update for today. To get future updates, make sure to subscribe to this podcast. Support us financially through the Buy Me a Coffee link. And if you can't do that, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Big Four Accounting Firms. Thanks for listening.